It's a bounty weekend, baby! We get bounty stuff, we get tons of goodies at the end of the week, and before that, it's just fine. So let's see what we got going on. On the PC, mobile, Xbox, PlayStation side of things, we got ourselves, in the event chest, the Mist of Scales. I, like a dum-dum, decided to blow literally all my gems and keys trying to get Urali just because I'm a stupid man. It's one of the few mythics I don't have, and I was feeling like I wanted it, but lo and behold, I don't. So, lesson learned. But in the event keys this time around, Urali is in there. And then that's kind of it. There's nothing else too exciting aside from Taipan in this kingdom. It's a lot of poison-based troops. There's nothing super exciting, unfortunately. I wouldn't even say Urali is very exciting either. So in terms of event keys this time around, if you don't have a Taipan, maybe go for that. But aside from that, there's really nothing worth opening up event keys for. So don't be like Keylime. Be a smart person. As far as the event goes this time around, we have ourselves a raid boss. Raid boss this time with Mist of Scales. If you jump into the shop and you get yourself up to tier 3, you get yourself this weapon. This weapon's fine. It's a mix type based on Mist of Scales. Realistically, there's not a ton of uses for this weapon because the Mist of Scales troops don't really have any kind of synergy or make any kind of amazing team. However, I still recommend you bit up to this weapon because getting the new weapons is always cool. And it's like a dragon eye in a book. Wow. Even though it's actually probably Medusa, but whatever. As far as the team that I'm going to be using this time around, I'm going to be trying it with this one. Sledgepaw is grabbed from the Underworld Kingdoms down below in the Dark Pits, I believe. But this is the team that I'm going to be using. Red mana generation with Taipan, more mana generation with Sledgepaw, and then it's just Mang in Algarak here. Algarak being the new troop that you get for this event specifically. So again, with the theme of these troops having some kind of value outside of the events themselves, this one's going to explode a gem for every poisoned enemy, well, 2 gems I should say. So this isn't the worst thing on the planet. If you're running some kind of poison heavy kind of lineup, this could be a decent mana generator for you. But in terms of what it does to the boss piece more specifically, nothing special, just damage. In terms of traits, nothing exciting. 30% skull reduction means that they could theoretically be run in the front line, but for raid boss scenarios I generally don't recommend that kind of a thing. So this team to me should be all fine for getting this done, and basically anyone can use it since this isn't all that complicated to throw together. So this team will be in the description down below. As far as the other new troop that we got this time around, it is a Cobra, spelled with a K because it's cool as hell. Cobra, looking all mighty fine. Have you ever seen a snake in armor before? Well, there you go. It does damage to an enemy boosted by poisoned enemies, so this is nothing really all that special. Times 3 boost is, you know, it's whatever. One shot damage, nothing too exciting. Summoning a couple troops, nothing also all that exciting. It's immune to poison and it poisons when doing skull damage, again, nothing all that exciting, so not that exciting is the punchline for that troop. But do make sure you jump in and get yourself some. Since it's 400, you will get yourself a couple of arcane blades, as if we don't have trillions of those. But feel free to jump in and grab some of that goodness. And then when we get into the Soul Forge, we've got ourselves nothing really that crazy. In terms of mythics that I would potentially recommend crafting, it would be Scorpius, and really this is just for the new explore mode situation that's going on. So if you do happen to have Urali already, and then you also have a Scorpius, you can put the two of these together to smash through a lot of the actual explore modes at level 12 very, very easily. And this is because of the fact that whenever an enemy is poisoned and you cast Scorpius, it does lethal damage to those 2 troops at the bottom there. So if you have some method of poisoning, like a Magnus for instance, or a Vanaxia, or Urali, then this is going to be able to just instantly kill people. Something that you can use to try and actually stop people from being poison immune would actually be this guy, Vash. So he's cursing a random enemy on browns. When an enemy is cursed, all of their immunities kind of disappear. So if you are looking for some way to just keep on smashing through, a team that looks like, you know, Mountain Crusher, either Urali or Scorpius and Vash, those all together will be able to just kind of punch through everything. So This is out there. Again, I wouldn't recommend crafting any of these personally. However, if you are just jonesing to get through some explore modes a little quicker, Scorpius is somebody that you could craft, only if you have Urali already, or potentially just a Magnus. That will also work, but generally I would not recommend crafting this unless you have a Urali already. In terms of weapons, really nothing too crazy in here. Cobra's Curse is in here, which is a mixed type weapon based on Naga allies. So Assassin class is a Naga type class. There are other Naga out there, but admittedly they're not all that good. So both of these weapons are kind of held back by the mixed types that they offer. The Medusa Tome was held back because Mist of Scales isn't really the best. Cobra's Curse is kind of in the same boat. There's really not a ton of good Naga allies that you'd really want to be crafting. It is a decent mixed type weapon. If we ever do get some Nagas that don't suck, this weapon will mix into itself, which is kind of fun for a mixed type weapon. But I would recommend crafting it just to have it. You never know, but admittedly it's not the highest priority of craft since it's something that doesn't have a ton of value, at least in the current game. But that is everything in the regular side of the world. Let's jump on into the spoilers. In the spoilers this time around, we have ourselves an Amanithrax faction assault. Faction assault for the place that's got Mr. Gobtruffle in it. Hooray! So if you want to jump in and get that done, that is going to be out there. As far as the team that you could use for this is the team that I generally run through with. It's of course a solid Apothecary with a High King Iron Gut, just lots of devouring and transforming with the Possessed King. Should be mighty fine. You could take this team all the way up to 500 if you so choose. Of course, the code will be in the description. The weapon for that is admittedly nothing all that exciting, if I could actually spell. It is like it's like an oh, it helps when I'm over here. It's the Tome of Spores. So this is basically, if you're running 2 Gobtruffles, this will at least get you some explosions here, because it's exploding 3 gems for each Amanithrax ally. So this is not a great weapon, admittedly, in general. When you look at the upgrades, there's really nothing in here all that exciting either. But if you do happen to have a couple of Gobtruffles on your team and you're tired of running it with like a Mountain Crusher, for instance, you could theoretically run it with this Tome of Spores. It'll do some damage and explode a couple gems. Really not too exciting. I always recommend grabbing the weapons just in case, but admittedly this is not really one you're probably ever going to reach for. But it is in there. But again, the team code is in the descriptions. If we look at what kind of pet we're getting, it's a little, you know, cakey looking boy here with a 5 on its head. I wonder what that's about. Oh yeah, that's right. It's the 5th anniversary, apparently, of this game. So if you want to get yourself a Mr., you know, Sprinkle Tongue over here, he will be available on Wednesday. That's fun. The class trial this time around is for the Assassin class. Assassin class is actually not the worst thing on the planet, especially considering that everything that we just talked about weapon-wise is all specific to this person, as they are a Mist of Scales Naga. Both of the weapons that you can get this time around are for that. But as far as what the class does, you know, you do get this Assassinate thing where you have a 10% chance to just kill the last enemy when you do skull damage. So this isn't the worst thing in the world. As far as the talent trees go, you do get Hunt, which is pretty fun. Hunter's Mark constantly all the time. You can get yourself Stealthy, which is kind of fun as well. And then you also get this ability to 7% chance to just assassinate the last enemy. So people that like to run the Assassin class love this RNG-ness here. So with the 10% to potentially kill people with the trait that we looked at before, mixed with this 7% chance to just kill the last enemy when an enemy dies, sometimes when you do skull damage, 2 people just die. So if that's ever happened to you before, that's where it's from. But that's basically the Assassin class. There's somebody that you hide somewhere in the middle of your lineup and then just kind of do sneaky dumb stuff with. But that's out there. The event will be on Thursday. Feel free to enjoy yourself running through with that. But then, on Friday, we get ourselves a bounty event. Ooh, bounty event! Bounty event, of course, is where you get yourself all the goodies in the world. You can spend all kinds of gems to get all kinds of orbs and other little sweet things like vault keys and all that fun stuff. We are getting a new troop to do it with. Lots of tabbing. The new troop that we're going to be getting is Amaru. So it's this albino snake looking dude with cool tattoos. This guy doesn't really do anything though. So we've gotten a lot of really interesting bounty troops recently. This one is actually not one of them. This is just doing damage to an enemy and then cursing, stunning, and poisoning them. That sounds all kinds of cool, but in reality, in a bounty event, there's no mana generation tied to any of this. Of course, it has the bounty hunter trait. It gains 1 magic whenever an ally casts a spell, which is whatever, and it starts fast, which is whatever. So when it comes to team building, of course, for the bounty event, you always want to run the bounty captain, which this troop will be. You'll be getting double the bounty bonus for it. So absolutely make sure that you're running this troop in all of your bounty teams. However, in general, they're not really going to offer you that much. So try and have a really strong rest of your team, and then Amaru will just kind of be in it. That's my perspective when it comes to the bounty event. But that is all the cool stuff that we're all getting this time around on the PC, mobile, Xbox, PlayStation side of things. Nothing super exciting, but the bounty event is pretty darn cool. Let's jump on over to the Switchers. Good morning, Switch folks. For you guys, in the event keys, you guys have the Forest of Thorns. Forest of Thorns, of course, being the kingdom of Rowan. Super cool dude, helped us all through the early game, and also very useful in the late game. But what we've gotten here is Yasmin's Chosen as far as a mythic is concerned for you guys. The first one there is not yet released. But Yasmin's Chosen, not the worst mythic on the planet. She's doing scatter damage boosted by entangled enemies. The boost is fine. But then it's creating 10 green gems, so she's someone that is able to loop and loop and loop and loop, which is kind of fun. She's also entangling a random enemy when you match green gems, so also kind of fun. I wouldn't necessarily recommend opening event keys to get her, though. She's not good enough that I would really recommend trying to dump keys for that. As far as other useful troops, though, King Avalorn does get all elves 50% mana start. He does damage to all. This summoning thing is whatever. He is used in the Life and Death meta defense team, so since it is a Guild Wars week for you guys, if you are missing a King Avalorn to make that Life and Death team, potentially you would want to consider him. Sylvan Amora is in here as a dragon type. They're not the worst dragon on a planet. Again, entangling people on 4 or 5 matches, which is kind of cool. Damage to all, not the worst in the world. Forest Troll, also not the worst in the world, making a crap ton of green gems. Also not so terrible. And then of course Rowan's in there, but hopefully you have him if you've just completed the quest line at the Forest of Thorns, so you should have this, but also pretty noteworthy. So even though I just said there's a bunch of decent troops in here, I still wouldn't really recommend opening up event chests. The only reason you could theoretically want to would probably be for the King Avalorn piece, just because it is a Guild Wars week and that Life and Death meta team is a thing. If you're not aware of what I'm talking about, it is this one specifically. Instead of Lamash 2, you would be using Graves here specifically, but this is the team for that, for Guild Wars, if you feel like being a piece of crap. A lot of teams struggle with that kind of a lineup. So that is there for you guys in the event chests. As far as the new troops this time around, we got ourselves a Vine Martin. I don't get why he's called Vine Martin, but it's pretty cool. I'm guessing this is a Martin troop for some reason. But it's basically a ferret that's doing a little cosplay here, so that's cool. Destroys a column. I just realized how freaking cute that part is. Destroys a column, and then it does damage to the last enemy boosted by Browns destroyed by 5. So this overall boost isn't the worst on the planet. Destroying a column and then catching some Browns will get you, like, decent amount of damage, but realistically nothing all that exciting. It's stealthy, it starts with 75% mana. It's okay. I mean, admittedly, there's really nothing so great. If you're in the early game, this troop could actually be very useful to you. In the early game, having a boost ratio of 5, this will actually net you some pretty high damage compared to a lot of your other troops. So in that respect, he's not the worst in the world. But for mid-game, end-game players, really not that great. But look how cute he is. Just look at him. Just look how cute he is. So that's the Glory troop for you out there this time around. But since it is a Guild Wars week, what you guys need to make sure that you're doing is jumping into your Guild Wars menu today and setting all of your defenses. You'll have all these color options in there. Make sure you set all of those. Make sure you jump into the Sentinel menu and you purchase as many of those Sentinels as you can. They help your guild a good amount. It doesn't cost too much to actually do it. So I do recommend making sure you jump in there, and I would say get your Sentinels at least up to 3 if you want to be a bro, and get them up to 5 if you want to be a champion, awesome, super cool person. But that is your Guild Wars for this week. If you are curious about how to do Guild Wars, what is Guild Wars, I have a video just for that on the channel, so feel free to go check that out. In the Soul Forge this time around, what we got ourselves are, there's some options in there. So we've got ourselves a World Breaker. World Breaker is one of those mythics that's kind of boring but also kind of decent. I actually have him rated pretty decently these days. In terms of just damage output, he's pretty consistent. He's doing, at least in mine, 28 damage to all. He's pretty much exploding the entire board, so that part's cool. Even if he's webbed, he's still going to explode the entire board since this isn't modified in any way. So very consistent mana generator. He does take a decent amount of mana to get full, but I honestly don't find it overly complicated to fill him. With all the mana converting and exploding that's going on these days, 30 mana isn't all that much harder to fill than 24. The cool thing about him is that he's gaining stats on 4 or 5 matches. So admittedly, when it comes to these stats, the only ones you're really going to care about is like magic. That's pretty much the only one. So randomly, whenever you do a 4 or 5 match, he's going to get 5 stats, which means there's a 25% chance it's going to actually go to magic, and then a 25% chance it's going to go to one of these other ones. Magic is the one, however, that will make him start doing more and more and more damage. Since he's a dragon type, you can mix him with the Dragon Guard class, and that'll help you out a lot with his magic pumping, since Dragon Guard will give all dragons an extra magic on 4 or 5 matches. But World Breaker's in there. He's pretty cool. Of the 2 that are available that I would even consider, he's one of the stronger ones to have. But again, nothing too exciting or special. The other one, however, is Voice of Orpheus. Voice of Orpheus is someone that I'm very much in love with, not because he looks all handsome or he has a comically tiny harp. No, it is because of this cleansing stuff. So cleansing all allies when you match any yellow gems is extremely helpful and beneficial. So this means you'll always have access to cleanse on your team without having to potentially cast a spell. Very useful. He's impervious, which means it's impossible to lock him down. So you can constantly cleanse, and even if they attempt to try and lock him down, they can't. And even if they somehow could, they can't anyway. But you could cleanse it off regardless. So when you cast his ability, it also cleanses. It also gives mana. So all of this stuff is looking mighty fine. But then he also has like a Harp of Doom over here, because it does damage boosted by all of the mana you've accumulated on your team so far. So what that means is that if you have a bunch of people full on your team, let's just say it's 15, 15, 15, and 15, even though he himself is 22, but let's just say it's 15 for math. That would mean a full mana on everybody would be 60 total mana, which would mean he'd be hitting for 88 damage when you shoot him off. So he's not a slouch in the damage department either. So Voice of Orpheus is a very useful troop. I would say in a Guild Wars context, Voice of Orpheus is going to get a lot more play than someone like a World Breaker would. So when it comes to the mythics you could theoretically craft this time around, I would say World Breaker and Voice of Orpheus are both decent options. Voice of Orpheus would certainly have more utility in a Guild Wars context. World Breaker is someone that's just like a fill-in troop if you're just looking for more damage and explosions and mana generation. World Breaker brings it all in a single troop. But both of those are in there for your crafting consideration. However, in the weapons side of things, we got ourselves an elemental bow. So this weapon is held back not by elementals, because elementals are amazing. The problem that we have with this elemental bow is that there is not an elemental class. So without an elemental class, we're not going to be able to create a mix of full mix potential, I should say, because we're always going to be one troop short of having a full elemental lineup. As far as we know, there's not really any elemental classes coming. They keep talking about it like it might be a thing, but at least at this point in time, it is not a thing. So I would still recommend grabbing it, because you never know. However, there is no elemental hero on the horizon here, but elemental troops in general are so good, you could theoretically get away with just running anything in the top slot and then putting a bunch of elementals below them and still getting some value out of this weapon. So I personally think this is a must craft kind of a weapon. Elemental troops, as I mentioned before, are just so darn good that trying to not have an elemental bow that specializes in making mana for them doesn't seem like a good idea. But that is everything in the regular section. Let's jump on into the spoilers. In the spoilers, we got ourselves a Crypt Keeper Assault on Tuesday. So Crypt Keepers, not the craziest. This is the team that I would recommend using if you can. Basically using a Mang and then a couple Skull Converters with a Possessed King just to pop everything off. If you don't have a Possessed King, feel free to basically use any kind of mana generator that you could theoretically want. You could use a Queen Aurora down there if you happen to have her. However, anyone that literally makes mana is all you need down here. Once you get these guys starting to convert, this game is pretty much over. So Possessed King's in here really just for flavor. However, any mana generator in this bottom slot will totally work. Feel free to snag that code in the description. On Wednesday, you guys get yourself a tiny tort pet. It's a tiny little tortoise. That's what he is. It's not. It's a cake. You got fooled. Got jammed. So it's a cake because it is the 5th anniversary for this game. So you guys get a cake, we get a cupcake. That's apparently the way they roll these days. This looks kind of delicious. I'd pretty much eat the top of this thing off and then kind of ignore the, tongue and eye and legs on it. Just eat the chocolate and run. But that pet will be available on Wednesday. On Thursday, you get an Archer class event. Archer is a great class, so I would recommend investing some resources in leveling that up. The reason Archer is so amazing is because they get 50% mana start. You get a 15% chance to just kill people when you do skull damage, so immediately these two are really cool. But then when you get into the talent tree, you get Hunter's Marks on 4/5s, which is super nice. You get the ability to entangle the first enemy at the start of the battle, which is nice. You get a Leaf Storm start, which is very useful for a lot of troops. And then really you get Dodge, which is the only other super exciting thing in here. But as a frontliner that's constantly trying to do skull damage, having some form of protection against skulls is pretty cool. So Archer class, incredibly good, one of my favorites these days. So I would recommend on Thursday investing a decent amount to get yourself some Archer levels. But beyond all of that, on Friday, it's bounty time. And the bounty troop that's coming out is Wood Rhinox. And I can't spell, it's Wood Rhinox with an R. It's this guy. So he's converting all red gems to green, and then he's also doing splash damage to an enemy converted by the gems converted. So damage-wise, he's really not going to be too crazy. He is a mana converter, however, so that's not the worst in the world. What's also fun is that he does reduce skulls by 33%, so that part's pretty cool as well. Since this is going to be a bounty event and he is going to be the bounty captain, what that means is you want to make sure that you have a Wood Rhinox in your lineup the entire time, because you will be getting a 2x bonus to the bounty part here every time you have the bounty captain in your lineup. So if you're trying to maximize the amount of rewards you can be getting, please make sure you're running the Wood Rhinox in your lineup. Otherwise you'll be missing out on some of those sweet rewards. But I would recommend making sure you get this troop, you get them in your first slot, and then put some green people below him as best you can. You'll have a mighty good time with your bounty event this weekend. But that is everything for you guys. Let's take it to the outro. We did it, guys. Bounty events for everybody. Pretty standard week aside from that. So after, having a crazy delve weekend, this is a fairly relaxing week as far as Gems of War is concerned. I do want to quickly plug for my own content a little bit. So I did just open up memberships on my YouTube channel, and for now all I really have in there, which I think is kind of fun. But if you are looking to support the channel in a little bit of a context, basically if you sign up for the membership, I will make sure to give you a special shout out in one of my videos monthly. So what that means is if you've ever watched this clip, you want to hear a TPK rant? Let me see if I can dial it up. Hey boys and girls, it's Keylime here with another Possessed King PSA. Have you ever wondered why your teams suck? Possessed King should be in every lineup. He explodes, bam, he transforms, kablow! He makes all of your teams way better. You got a storm running? Possessed King that shit! That sometimes I like to be a little crazy talking about troops and stuff like that. So if you ever want me to review a troop in this style, or a kingdom, or a class, or literally a product in the real world, or a celebrity, or literally anything, I will like to include this little shout out for you and a silly little thing that you request, just as a fun little feature. So that's out there. Of course, I'm streaming over in Twitch land these days, so if you haven't followed me over on Twitch, I don't know if we can still be friends, but I'll think about it, But I'm over on Twitch, so make sure you toss me a follow over there. I be streaming on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. So I miss you. I want to see you guys over there. But that is all the shameless plugging that I could possibly do. And this is the end of this video. I will see you in another one.